Listen closely to the sound of your own life, and you might notice a persistent hum of anxiety that never truly fades regardless of how many vacations you take or how many planners you buy to fix the mess. You wake up feeling behind before your feet even hit the floor because your mind is already racing through a chaotic list of obligations that you have neither the energy nor the focus to actually complete with excellence. We tell ourselves that we are just busy or that the world is demanding too much from us right now, but that is a comforting lie we use to avoid looking into the mirror at the real source of the wreckage. The brutal truth is that your life feels out of control because you have surrendered the steering wheel of your own consciousness to the highest bidder in every single moment of the day. You are not a victim of a cruel universe or a string of bad luck, but rather a victim of your own refusal to govern the very faculties that make you human. The clutter on your desk and the debt in your bank account are merely physical manifestations of a mind that has lost the ability to say no to immediate impulses and yes to long-term discipline. You feel unstable because you are drifting on the currents of external events instead of anchoring yourself in the power of deliberate choice and rigorous self-regulation. This is the moment where the illusion of external blame must die, so that the reality of internal power can finally be born within you. If you continue to believe that your circumstances are the problem, you will remain a permanent hostage to things you cannot change while ignoring the one thing you actually can, which is yourself. This realization is designed to be deeply uncomfortable because comfort is exactly what has kept you paralyzed in a state of growing disorganization and quiet desperation for years. The modern world is not designed to help you succeed, but is instead meticulously engineered to keep you distracted and emotionally reactive so that your focus remains fractured and your willpower stays depleted. Every notification on your phone is a calculated strike against your attention span, and every algorithm is built to exploit your biological cravings for novelty over the hard work of actual progress. You live in an era where weak focus is the default state and emotional instability is marketed as being authentic when in reality it is just a sign that you have no mastery over your internal state. We have become a society of people who react to everything and initiate nothing because we have lost the mental fortitude required to sit with discomfort and finish what we start without looking for an escape. This lack of control over your basic habits has created a massive leak in your energy reservoir that leaves you exhausted by noon despite having accomplished nothing of real value or significance. When you cannot control where your mind goes, you cannot control where your time goes. And when your time is lost, your entire existence begins to feel like a series of emergencies rather than a structured path. Disorganization is not just about having a messy room or a full inbox, but about having a psyche that is so fragmented it can no longer hold a single vision long enough to manifest it into reality. You are being pulled in 1,000 directions by forces that do not care about your goals or your peace of mind, and your only defense is a level of self-control that you have likely never been taught to cultivate. This environment of constant noise has convinced you that being busy is the same thing as being effective, but the truth is that you are just running in circles inside a cage of your own making. Consider the physical space you occupy and the way you manage the hours of your day as direct reflections of the internal war you are currently losing against your own impulses and lack of structure. When your mindset is a storm of unexamined thoughts and unrefined emotions, it is impossible for your environment to be anything other than a mirroring image of that same profound instability and chaos. You might blame a demanding boss or a difficult family situation for your stress, But the reality is that your lack of boundaries is the true culprit behind the drain you feel every single evening. A person who possesses genuine self-control can find order in the middle of a battlefield, while a person without it can turn a peaceful sanctuary into a zone of clutter and missed opportunities within minutes. Your energy is a finite resource that you are currently wasting on trivialities and meaningless distractions because you have not developed the muscle of intentionality that filters the essential from the noise. This disorganization in your time management is a symptom of a much deeper spiritual and psychological failure to take responsibility for the way you move through the world on a daily basis. Every time you choose the easy path over the right path, you are reinforcing a neural pathway of weakness that makes the next challenge feel even more overwhelming than the last one did yesterday. You are essentially building a house on a foundation of sand, and then wondering why the walls keep cracking every time the wind of life blows slightly harder than usual in your direction. Control is not about being a rigid machine without feelings, but about having a command center that functions with precision regardless of what the weather looks like outside your window right now. Without this command center, you are just a passenger in your own body watching as the years slip through your fingers without any tangible proof of your potential. The most dangerous deception you likely believe is that things will somehow get better on their own once you reach a certain milestone or once the current season of your life finally calms down. Chaos does not dissipate by itself, but rather grows like a weed in the absence of a gardener who is willing to pull it out by the roots with ruthless and consistent effort every single morning. Your life is not going to become organized because you found a better app or because you had a sudden burst of motivation that lasts for 48 hours before fading back into the darkness of old habits. It will only improve when you accept that the foundation of everything you desire is the cold and hard reality of self-control, which serves as the ultimate gatekeeper of your future success. Without the ability to govern your own behavior, you are essentially a child in an adult's body, hoping that the universe will eventually reward you for your mere existence and good intentions. High performance and deep peace of mind are not accidents of birth or products of luck, but are the earned rewards of individuals who have mastered the art of saying no to the self that wants to quit. If you cannot control your tongue, your temper, and your morning routine, then you have no right to expect a life that feels stable or a career that reaches the heights of your secret ambitions. Everything you see around you that you are unhappy with can be traced back to a moment where you chose comfort over discipline and allowed a small part of your integrity to erode for the sake of ease. This is the brutal truth that most people will spend their entire lives avoiding because it places the burden of change squarely on their own shoulders instead of on the world. You are the architect of the mess you are currently standing in, and that means you are also the only one with the power to tear it down and build something that actually lasts. We often look at successful and organized people as if they possess some magical quality that we were denied at birth, but the only difference is their refusal to let their moods dictate their actions at any time. They have understood that motivation is a fickle friend that disappears the moment things get difficult, while discipline is a reliable partner that stays until the job is finished and the goals are fully met. When you lack control, you are essentially living in a state of perpetual emergency, where you are always putting out fires instead of building a legacy that provides warmth for yourself and others. This internal instability creates a vibration of desperation that people can sense, and it repels the very opportunities and relationships that would help you climb out of the hole you have dug. Your environment is a loud broadcast of your internal standards, and if your world is currently a wreck, it is because your standards for yourself have fallen below the level of basic self-respect. It is time to stop looking for excuses in your childhood or your personality type and start looking for solutions in the way you handle the next 60 minutes of your existence on this earth today. Control is the primary currency of the effective human being, and if you are broke in this area, then you are effectively bankrupt in every other area of your life that truly matters. You cannot organize a business or a household if you cannot organize the thoughts that occur between your ears or the movements of your hands when you are alone and bored. This is not a journey of self-care in the way the world defines it, but a journey of self-mastery through the intentional application of pressure and the rejection of every single weak impulse. You must become the master of your own internal domain before you can ever hope to influence the external world in a way that creates lasting value and enduring power for your future self. As we peel back the layers of your current disorganization, you will begin to see that every missed deadline and every forgotten promise was a choice you made to prioritize the path of least resistance over the path of power. Weakness is a habit that disguises itself as a personality trait, but it is actually just a collection of small surrenders that have accumulated over time until they feel like an immovable mountain in your path. The reason you feel so tired is not because you are working too hard, but because you are fighting against yourself every step of the way because your desires and your actions are not in alignment. True organization is the outward expression of an inward commitment to excellence, and it requires a level of honesty that most people find absolutely terrifying to confront in the quiet of the night. You have been waiting for a hero to save you or a miracle to happen, but the hero is the version of you that finally decides to take command, and the miracle is the work you do when you don't feel like it. Every time you push through the resistance to organize your life, you are reclaiming a piece of your soul that was lost to the fog of distraction and the gravity of mediocrity that pulls at everyone. This process is not about being perfect, but about being the person who is in charge of the chaos instead of being the person who is being consumed by it every single hour of the day. Control is the filter that allows the signal of your potential to emerge from the noise of your excuses, and it is the only thing that will ever truly set you free from the cycle of failure. You must learn to love the pressure because the pressure is what turns coal into diamonds, and it is what will turn your scattered existence into a masterpiece of order and purposeful direction. There is no middle ground in this struggle because you are either the master of your habits or you are their slave, and the current state of your life tells you exactly which one you currently are. By the end of this journey, you will realize that the structure you once feared as a cage is actually the scaffolding that allows you to reach heights you previously thought were reserved for the elite and the lucky few. The truth is that control is the foundation of everything worthwhile, and without it, every dream you have is just a hallucination that will eventually turn into a bitter regret as the years pass you by. You have the capacity to reorganize your entire reality, but it begins with the humble and difficult task of organizing the way you speak to yourself and the way you value your own word to yourself. Stop looking for a way around the work and start looking for the way through it, because the path of discipline is the only one that leads to the life you actually want to live. This is the brutal truth that you needed to hear, because until you accept that the problem is internal, you will never find a solution that works for more than a few days of temporary effort. Your life is waiting for you to take the lead, and it is ready to follow whatever direction you set once you prove that you have the character to hold the line against your own weakness. The chaos ends the moment you decide that you are no longer willing to be a bystander in your own story, and you finally pick up the tools of self-control to begin the renovation. This is not just about cleaning your room or making a list, but about reclaiming the sovereignty of your mind and the integrity of your actions in a world that wants you to remain soft. Prepare yourself for the discomfort of growth because the person you are going to become is worth every bit of the struggle it takes to break the old patterns of your disorganized past. You are now entering a new era of absolute accountability where excuses are dead, and the only thing that remains is your ability to push yourself to the limits of what you can achieve. If you are still waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration to strike before you start organizing your life, then you are essentially volunteering to remain a failure for the rest of your natural existence. Motivation is nothing more than a chemical high that fluctuates with the quality of your sleep and the sugar content of your last meal, which makes it a pathetic foundation for any serious ambition. Most people spend their entire lives stuck in a psychological waiting room hoping for the right mood to arrive like a bus that is never actually coming to pick them up. This reliance on a feeling is the primary reason your desk is still cluttered and your goals are still just ink on a page instead of reality in the physical world. You have been conditioned to believe that you need to feel like doing the work in order to do it well, but this is a lie designed for the weak and the mediocre. The trap of the right mood is a sophisticated form of procrastination that allows you to feel productive while you are actually just spinning your wheels in the mud of your own indecision. Every time you delay a task because you are not in the flow, you are reinforcing the idea that your emotions are the boss of your actions rather than your will. This destroys your consistency because feelings are inherently unstable and they will always desert you the moment the work becomes difficult or boring. Real control is not about finding a way to feel good, but about developing the capacity to act when you feel absolutely nothing or even when you feel active resistance. You must kill the idea that your emotional state has any relevance to the execution of your duties if you ever hope to master your environment. Stop treating motivation like a prerequisite for progress and start treating it like a luxury that you occasionally enjoy but never rely on for the heavy lifting of your life. The hard truth is that self-discipline is a cold and mechanical skill that is built through the repetitive act of doing exactly what you said you would do regardless of how much you want to quit. It is a muscle that only grows when it is pushed against the resistance of your own laziness and your desire for immediate comfort at the expense of your future self. When you choose to wake up at the first alarm instead of hitting snooze, you are not just getting out of bed, you are winning a microscopic war against the part of you that wants to stay soft. These small, repeated actions are the only things that have the power to reshape your identity from a person who talks into a person who delivers results consistently. You do not think your way into a new way of acting, but rather you act your way into a new way of thinking by proving to your brain that you are a person of integrity. Every time you push through a workout or finish a report when you are exhausted, you are rewriting the code of your character and making discipline your new default setting. This process is not glamorous, and it does not feel good in the moment because it is the literal death of your old excuses and your previous version of yourself. Most people fail because they are looking for a shortcut or a mindset hack that avoids the friction of manual effort, but there is no substitute for the raw labor of self-regulation. You must become a person who values the contract you have made with yourself more than you value the temporary relief of avoiding a difficult or tedious task today. Identity is not found in a journal or a therapy session, but in the observable data of your daily habits and the way you handle the moments when no one is watching you work. Discipline is the only tool that can bridge the massive gap between the person you are right now and the person you have the potential to become if you stop stopping. Consider the chronic procrastinator who believes they work better under pressure, but in reality they are just addicted to the stress hormones that provide a fake version of the motivation they lack. This cycle of delay and panic creates a life of constant inconsistency where you are always rushing to catch up instead of leading the way with a clear and organized strategy for success. You see this pattern in the person who starts a new diet with high energy only to abandon it 3 days later because the initial excitement has worn off and the hunger has set in. They are waiting for a feeling to sustain them through a process that requires a system, and it is this fundamental misunderstanding of human nature that keeps them trapped in mediocrity. Disciplined people do not have more willpower than you, but they have better systems and a total lack of interest in whether or not they are in the mood to perform. They treat their daily schedule like a set of non-negotiable orders from a superior officer because they understand that their feelings are often liars trying to protect them from the pain of growth. Inconsistency is a cancer that eats away at your self-respect until you no longer believe in your own ability to change your circumstances or your environment. You tell yourself that you will start tomorrow or next week, but tomorrow is a mythical land where all your discipline lives while today is a wasteland of avoided responsibilities. The only way to break this cycle is to start acting with a level of aggression that leaves no room for the internal debate about whether or not you feel like being productive right now. Every time you entertain the thought of quitting, you are opening the door for chaos to re-enter your life and steal back the ground you have fought so hard to gain. You must become a person who acts in spite of yourself, because that is the only way to gain genuine authority over the direction of your existence. If you observe the highest achievers in any field, you will notice that their success is not built on a series of inspired breakthroughs, but on a monotonous grind of disciplined actions performed daily. They show up when they are sick, and they show up when they are tired, and they show up when they have every excuse in the world to stay home and do nothing. This level of commitment creates a momentum that is impossible to stop because it is not tied to the volatility of human emotion or the unpredictability of the outside world. When you operate with ruthless discipline, you are essentially taking the steering wheel away from your amygdala and handing it over to your prefrontal cortex, where logic and long-term planning live. You begin to see your life as a series of tactical objectives rather than a collection of random events that happen to you while you are busy making other plans. The disorganization you see in your home or your finances is simply the physical evidence of the moments where you let your feelings win the argument against your better judgment. You cannot organize your surroundings until you have organized your internal hierarchy, so that your values are at the top and your impulses are at the very bottom where they belong. This shift in power is what allows you to maintain order in the middle of a crisis while everyone else is losing their minds and falling apart under the pressure of the moment. Control is not something you are given by a boss or a government, but something you seize through the intentional and repeated application of discipline over a long period of time. It is the steady hand that guides the ship through the storm while the crew is screaming in terror because they have no faith in the structural integrity of the vessel. You are the ship and you are the captain, and the discipline you build today is the only thing that will keep you afloat when the real waves of life finally start to hit. The most dangerous lie you tell yourself is that you can have control over your life without having total control over your physical and mental impulses at all times during the day. True discipline is not a part-time job that you clock into when it is convenient, but a permanent state of being that defines every single interaction you have with the world around you. Most people are essentially puppets being jerked around by the invisible strings of their cravings for food or social media validation or the simple desire to be comfortable. They are disorganized because they have no central authority within themselves to coordinate their efforts and enforce the standards they claim to hold for their future success. If you want a life that is structured and powerful, you must first become a person who is capable of enforcing structure on the smallest and most mundane aspects of your daily routine. This means making your bed with precision and answering your emails with clarity and refusing to eat the junk food that makes your mind feel foggy and slow throughout the afternoon. These actions might seem trivial to the average person, but to the disciplined individual, they are the foundational stones of a fortress that protects them from the chaos of the world. You are building a reputation with yourself every hour of the day, and that reputation is either one of strength or one of consistent and predictable failure under pressure. When you stop waiting for motivation, you find that you have a much more reliable power source, which is the knowledge that you can do hard things even when you don't want to do them. This self-reliance is the true secret of the organized mind because it removes the fear of the future and replaces it with the confidence of the proven executor. You no longer have to worry about whether or not you will have the energy to handle a crisis because you know that your discipline will show up regardless of your energy levels. Imagine a life where you never have to scramble to find your keys or apologize for a missed deadline, because your internal systems are so robust that these errors simply do not happen anymore. This is not a fantasy, but the natural result of choosing discipline over the easy path and refusing to let your standards slip for the sake of a few minutes of temporary comfort. You must develop a level of aggression toward your own excuses that borders on the fanatical, because your excuses are the primary enemy of the organized and powerful life you desire. Every time you let a small task slide, you are giving permission for the larger structures of your life to begin the slow and agonizing process of decay and ultimate collapse. The people who tell you to take it easy or to listen to your body are often the ones who are most comfortable with their own mediocrity, and they want you to join them there. You must reject the culture of soft expectations and embrace a standard of performance that makes other people uncomfortable when they watch you work with such focus. This is where real control is found, in the lonely hours of the early morning or the late night when the world is quiet, and the only thing that matters is the execution of the plan. You are not a victim of a busy schedule, but a victim of your own inability to prioritize the things that move the needle toward your ultimate goals in life. Once you build ruthless self-discipline, you will find that you have more time and more energy than you ever thought possible, because you are no longer wasting it on the internal struggle. The fight becomes easier because the outcome is already decided by the systems you have put in place to ensure that the work gets done no matter what happens around you. This is the transition from being a reactive animal to being a proactive architect of your own destiny, and it is the only way to truly win. As you move forward from this moment, you must adopt the mindset of a professional who performs regardless of the weather or the mood or the circumstances of the day. Professionals do not wait for the sun to shine to do their jobs, and you cannot wait for the perfect conditions to start organizing the wreckage of your current existence into something meaningful. The journey to a controlled and organized life is paved with the corpses of the excuses you used to make and the versions of yourself that you have finally decided to leave behind. You must be willing to be bored, and you must be willing to be tired, and you must be willing to be frustrated without letting any of those states slow your progress for a single second. This is the price of admission for a life of authority, and it is a price that most people are simply too weak or too distracted to pay in full every single day. If you are looking for a gentle pat on the back or a soft word of encouragement, you have come to the wrong place, because the world does not care about your feelings, it only cares about your results. Results are the only currency that matters in the economy of life, and discipline is the only way to mint that currency with any kind of reliability or scale. You have the power to change everything about your situation, but that power is currently locked behind the door of the hard work you are avoiding because it feels uncomfortable. Take the key of discipline and open that door with the understanding that once you step through it, there is no turning back to the chaotic mess you used to call your life. You are now a person of action and a person of order because you have finally realized that motivation is a myth and discipline is the only thing that is real and permanent. Control yourself, and you will find that you have the power to control everything else that matters in this world as you build the fortress of your new and organized future. Take a long and honest look at the room you are sitting in right now, because the physical state of your surroundings is a high-definition broadcast of the current state of your mind. If your desk is buried under stacks of paper and your living space is a battlefield of half-finished projects, then your internal world is likely a mirror image of that same profound confusion and lack of clarity. We often try to separate our mental health from our physical environment, but the two are inextricably linked in a feedback loop that either generates power or drains your soul every single day. A disorganized environment acts as a constant visual tax on your cognitive load by forcing your brain to process thousands of irrelevant stimuli that have nothing to do with your primary mission. Every piece of junk you refuse to throw away is a micro-decision that your subconscious is still trying to resolve, which leaves you with no mental bandwidth for the deep work that actually matters. You cannot think clearly in a space that screams for your attention with every misplaced object and every layer of dust, because clarity requires a blank canvas on which to paint your future. The chaos you see around you is not a minor inconvenience, but a psychological anchor that is preventing you from sailing toward the life of control and order you claim to desire so deeply. When you allow your physical world to become a wreck, you are essentially telling your subconscious that you are a person who does not deserve excellence or precision in anything you do. This internal acceptance of messiness eventually becomes a lifestyle of mediocrity, where you simply stop noticing the decay until it is too late to fix the damage without a total demolition of your habits. To control everything, you must first control the cubic feet of space that you occupy and ensure that every item has a specific purpose and a designated home within your domain. Digital overload has become the modern equivalent of a hoarding disorder, where we collect thousands of unread emails and useless apps that act as a digital fog over our daily consciousness. Your attention is the most valuable asset you possess, but you are currently giving it away for free to every notification and every bottomless social media feed that crosses your path. This constant influx of unnecessary information creates a state of continuous partial attention where you are never fully present in your own life or your own work. You are drowning in a sea of digital noise that makes it impossible to hear the quiet voice of your own intuition or the structural demands of your long-term goals for success. Reclaiming your mind requires a ruthless digital purge that removes any input that does not directly contribute to your growth or your primary objectives for this year. Most of the news you read and the content you consume is nothing more than psychological filler that keeps you in a state of low-level anxiety and perpetual distraction from the truth. By simplifying your digital landscape, you create the mental silence required to actually hear yourself think for the first time in years without the interference of 1,000 strangers. A controlled life is one where you are the gatekeeper of what enters your consciousness, and you refuse to let the garbage of the internet pollute the sanctity of your focus and drive. If your phone is the first thing you touch in the morning, you have already lost the battle for your day because you have allowed the world to dictate your initial thoughts and feelings. Reclaiming control means setting strict boundaries around your technology so that it serves your vision instead of enslaving your time and energy to a series of meaningless and repetitive dopamine hits. You must be willing to disconnect from the trivial in order to reconnect with the essential elements of your character and your purpose in this world. Mental noise is the internal byproduct of an unorganized life, and it manifests as a racing mind that cannot settle on a single task long enough to see it through to completion. This noise is composed of all the open loops in your life, such as the bills you haven't paid, and the conversations you are avoiding, and the goals you have abandoned out of fear. Each of these unresolved items acts like a background application on a computer that is slowly eating up all the processing power until the entire system eventually crashes under the weight. To kill the chaos, you must perform a radical mental decluttering by closing these loops one by one and moving every internal thought into an external system of record. When you write down a task or make a firm decision, you free your brain from the burden of remembering it, which allows your mind to return to its natural state of calm and intense focus. Decision fatigue is a real biological limit, and every unnecessary choice you make about what to wear or what to eat is depleting the willpower you need for the big moves. Simplifying your life means reducing the number of trivial decisions you have to make each day so that your mind remains fresh for the strategic challenges that require your full intelligence. High-level control is achieved through the elimination of the non-essential until only the core of your mission remains visible and unobstructed by the debris of a cluttered existence. You must learn to value the emptiness of a clean mind just as much as you value the productivity of a busy one, because silence is the soil in which the best ideas are grown. This is not about being a minimalist for the sake of an aesthetic, but about being a strategist who understands that clutter is the enemy of effective execution in every single field of human endeavor. Once you clear the mental fog, you will find that the solutions to your most difficult problems were always there, just waiting for you to stop making so much noise. The transformation that occurs when you finally simplify your life is nothing short of miraculous, because it releases a tidal wave of trapped energy that was being wasted on managing the mess. You will suddenly find that you have the time and the clarity to organize your schedule with a level of precision that makes you feel like the master of your own destiny again. This new sense of control is addictive because it provides a feeling of stability and power that no amount of material possessions or temporary distractions could ever hope to match in the long run. When your environment is clean and your mind is clear, you move through the world with a different kind of posture and a much more commanding presence that others will notice. You are no longer reacting to the emergencies of a disorganized life, but are instead moving with the deliberate intent of a person who knows exactly where they are going and why they are going there. The friction of daily existence begins to disappear because you have removed the obstacles that were previously slowing down every movement and every thought you attempted to have. Control is the natural result of order, and order is the natural result of your refusal to tolerate chaos in any form, whether it is a messy room or a cluttered mind or a toxic relationship. You must become a person who prioritizes clarity above comfort and who is willing to do the hard work of maintenance to ensure that the mess never returns to claim your peace. This process of decluttering is a lifelong discipline that requires you to constantly audit your life and your surroundings to ensure that everything you own and every thought you think is serving you. If it does not add value, then it is a weight, and if it is a weight, then it must be discarded without sentimentality or hesitation for the sake of your future self and your ultimate success. Consider the psychological weight of the things you keep just in case or the digital files you save but never look at because they represent a fear of the future and a lack of trust in yourself. This accumulation of baggage is a sign that you are living in the past or worrying about a hypothetical tomorrow instead of taking command of the present moment with both of your hands. When you clear your physical and mental space, you are making a bold statement to the universe that you are ready for new and better things to enter your life right now. You cannot receive the opportunities of the next level of your existence if your hands are still full of the trash from the previous chapters of your struggle and your failure. Decluttering is an act of faith in your own ability to generate what you need when you need it rather than hoarding resources out of a sense of scarcity and desperation for security. Every time you throw away an object you don't use or delete a contact that drains your energy, you are reclaiming a piece of your sovereignty from the clutter of the world. This is the practical application of self-control where you decide what stays and what goes based on your own internal compass rather than the pressures of consumerism or social expectation. The more you simplify, the more powerful you become because your focus is no longer divided among 1,000 different things that don't actually matter to your happiness. You are refining your life into a sharp and effective instrument that can cut through any obstacle and build any future that you can imagine with your newly cleared vision. Control is not about having more stuff, but about having more of yourself available to meet the challenges of the day with total presence and unshakable confidence in your own capability. This is the secret of the elite who understand that the most powerful weapon in the world is a mind that is uncluttered by the trivial and focused entirely on the essential tasks at hand. As you begin to reclaim your attention from the modern systems that are designed to steal it, you will notice a profound shift in your ability to concentrate on difficult and rewarding work. Your brain will start to rewire itself for deeper thinking and longer periods of focus as you remove the constant interruptions of a disorganized and noisy environment from your life. This reclamation of your cognitive power is the foundation upon which everything else in this book is built, because without focus you have no control, and without control you have nothing. You will find that tasks that used to take you all day can now be finished in a few hours of intense and uninterrupted labor, because your mind is no longer fighting against itself. The clarity you gain will allow you to see the gaps in your logic and the flaws in your strategy with a level of objectivity that was previously impossible to achieve in the middle of the chaos. This is where the real work of organizing your life begins, in the quiet and structured space you have created for yourself through the intentional act of decluttering your existence. You are no longer a victim of the noise, but a master of the silence, and that silence is where your true power resides as a human being of high character and purpose. Do not underestimate the impact of a clean desk or a clear mind, because these are the humble beginnings of a life that is governed by the principles of absolute self-mastery and order. You are building a temple of productivity where only the most important thoughts and actions are allowed to cross the threshold of your consciousness and your physical environment. This is the path to the top, and it is paved with the things you decided to leave behind so that you could carry the weight of your own potential with more grace and more speed. The final step in killing the chaos is to commit to a lifestyle of continuous refinement where you never allow the weeds of disorganization to take root in your mind or your home ever again. This requires a daily audit of your inputs and your environment to ensure that you are staying true to the standards of clarity and control you have established for yourself. It is much easier to maintain order than it is to create it from a state of total wreck, so you must be vigilant in your defense of the space you have cleared for your growth. Every evening, you should reset your surroundings, and every morning, you should reset your mind, so that you are always starting from a position of strength and structured readiness for the day. This habit of constant realignment ensures that the small messes never turn into the large disasters that once defined your life and kept you trapped in a cycle of reactive failure. You are now the master of your environment and the commander of your own attention, which gives you a massive advantage over the distracted and disorganized masses of the world. The control you have established over your internal and external world is the baseline from which all your future victories will be launched with precision and unshakable confidence in your plan. You have killed the chaos, and in its place you have built a foundation of order that will support the weight of the massive goals you are about to achieve in the next chapters of your life. The world may still be a messy and unpredictable place, but your world is now a fortress of clarity and a sanctuary of focused power that nothing can easily disturb or destroy. You have taken the first major step toward controlling everything by controlling the fundamental elements of your reality, and you are now ready to scale that control to every other area of your existence. Keep the space clean and keep the mind clear. The fundamental flaw in most self-improvement journeys is the over-reliance on the fickle nature of human willpower, which functions much like a battery that inevitably drains as the day progresses. We often wake up with the best intentions to conquer our goals, but by the time the evening shadows lengthen, our resolve has withered under the weight of 1,000 tiny choices. This chapter argues that willpower is merely a temporary chemical spark, while a well-designed life system is a permanent infrastructure that sustains progress even when motivation is absent. If you rely on your mood to dictate your productivity, you are building your future on shifting sands. But if you rely on structure, you are anchoring yourself to bedrock. Successful individuals do not possess some mystical reservoir of discipline that you lack. Instead, they have simply mastered the art of building systems that make failure difficult and success almost automatic through the sheer force of organization. They understand that the human brain is not designed to be a constant engine of forced effort, but rather a pattern recognition machine that thrives when the path of least resistance is aligned with its highest objectives. By shifting your focus from trying harder to designing better, you effectively outsource your discipline to the environment around you. This transition marks the moment you stop being a victim of your impulses and start becoming the architect of your own destiny through the strategic application of structural control. Structure does not stifle your freedom, it is the very framework that creates it by removing the mental static of uncertainty and replacing it with a clear and unwavering directive. When you build a system, you are essentially making one high-level decision that eliminates the need for 10,000 low-level decisions later on. This is the essence of true control. Life systems are the integrated networks of routines and environmental cues that govern your time management habits and decision-making processes without requiring active thought. Consider the concept of decision fatigue, which suggests that every choice you make, from what to wear to how to respond to an email, consumes a finite amount of cognitive energy. A life system seeks to minimize this drain by implementing decision reduction strategies, that automate the mundane aspects of your existence. When your environment is designed for your success, you no longer have to fight yourself to do the right thing because the physical world around you prompts the desired behavior. If your gym clothes are laid out by your bed and your workspace is cleared of distractions before you sleep, you have already won half the battle before you even open your eyes. This is the power of environment design, which acts as a silent coach guiding your actions toward your goals. Habit loops are strengthened when they are embedded within a larger structure that provides consistent cues and immediate feedback. Without a system, you are constantly negotiating with your inner critic, but with a system, the negotiation is over because the script for your day has already been written. You are no longer guessing what to do next because your routine provides a navigational map that leads you through the chaos of modern life. This systematic approach transforms discipline from an agonizing act of the soul into a seamless mechanical process. It turns the heavy lifting of life into a series of lightweight, manageable steps that accumulate over time into massive results. By creating these automated workflows, you free up your mental bandwidth for deep work and creative problem solving. Your system becomes a shield against the erratic nature of the external world and the internal fluctuations of your own mind. The elite performers across every industry, from high-stakes surgery to professional athletics, do not wait for a lightning bolt of inspiration to strike before they begin their work. They rely on rigorous structure because they know that motivation is an unreliable partner that often disappears at the first sign of difficulty. Structure beats willpower because it is objective and unwavering, whereas willpower is subjective and volatile. When you observe a person who seems to have an effortless level of self-control, what you are actually seeing is the output of a meticulously calibrated life system. They have removed the friction between their current state and their desired outcome by engineering their daily existence to favor consistency over intensity. Chaos is the natural state of an unmanaged life, and it will always fill the vacuum left by a lack of planning. Routines act as the boundaries that prevent this chaos from spilling over into your most productive hours. By establishing a set sequence of actions for your morning and your evening, you create psychological bookends that stabilize your mental state. This structure creates a sense of safety and predictability that allows your brain to enter a state of flow more easily. You are not a robot, but you can benefit from the robotic application of foundational habits that keep you moving forward regardless of how you feel. The beauty of a system is that it works even when you are tired or stressed or distracted. It is the safety net that catches you when your personal energy fails. While others are spinning their wheels trying to find the energy to start, you are already halfway through your tasks because your system has already initiated the sequence. This is why the most disciplined people are often those who have to use their willpower the least. Designing your life system requires a cold and analytical look at your current failures and an honest assessment of where your structure is breaking down. Most inconsistency is not a character flaw, but a design flaw in your daily schedule that forces you to make too many hard choices at once. Planning your day in advance is the ultimate tool for reducing mental fatigue because it allows your executive function to operate at its peak during the planning phase. When you sit down at night to map out the following day, you are acting as the general of your own life, making strategic decisions from a position of calm. When the next morning arrives, you transition into the role of the soldier, simply executing the orders that your smarter self has already provided. This separation of planning and execution prevents the paralysis of choice that often leads to procrastination. If you wait until you are in the heat of the moment to decide what your priorities are, you will almost always choose the easy path over the right path. Structure prevents this by pre-committing you to a specific course of action that bypasses the emotional filters of the present moment. Real-life scenarios prove this constantly, such as the meal prepper who avoids junk food because their healthy dinner is already waiting, or the executive who limits meetings to specific blocks to protect their deep work time. These are not just habits, they are systemic interventions that protect the individual from their own weaknesses. You must treat your life as a laboratory where you are constantly testing and refining these structures to see what yields the best return on your energy. The goal is to reach a state of automatic discipline where your system carries you toward your objectives with the inevitability of a conveyor belt. Consider the athlete who never misses a training session, not because they are always excited to train, but because their bag is packed, their transport is scheduled, and their coach is waiting. The structure of their environment and their commitments makes the act of showing up easier than the act of making an excuse. This is the principle of friction, where you intentionally add difficulty to bad habits and remove it from good ones. If you want to spend less time on your phone, you place it in another room during work hours, adding a physical barrier that breaks the impulsive loop. If you want to read more, you place a book on your pillow so that it is the first thing you see when you go to bed. These are simple examples of how system design replaces the need for a strong will. Long-term control is not about having a dominant personality. It is about having a superior strategy for managing the reality of human nature. You must stop fighting your instincts and start outsmarting them by building walls where you tend to wander and bridges where you tend to stall. A life without system is a life of constant emergency management where you are always reacting to the loudest fire instead of building something meaningful. When you embrace structure, you shift from a reactive state to a proactive state where you are the one setting the tempo of your existence. This level of organization creates a profound sense of calm because you know that even if things go wrong, you have a framework to return to. The system is the foundation upon which your entire future is built, and without it, your potential will always be limited by your current level of energy. The transition from a willpower-based life to a system-based life is the most significant upgrade you can ever give your personal productivity. It is the difference between an amateur who waits for the right conditions and a professional who creates the right conditions regardless of the circumstances. As you begin to design your specific life system, you must look at your time management as a zero-sum game, where every minute not allocated to a purpose is a minute lost to entropy. Use tools and techniques like time blocking or batching to create a rhythm that suits your natural biological clock. If you are most alert in the morning, that is where your highest leverage tasks must be anchored by an unbreakable routine. If your environment is cluttered, your mind will be cluttered, so you must implement a system for physical order that operates on autopilot. This is not about being rigid for the sake of being rigid. It is about being disciplined so that you can be truly free to focus on what matters. When your life system is functioning correctly, you will find that you have more energy and more spontaneous joy because you are no longer exhausted by the constant battle of self-regulation. You will move through your day with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are in total alignment with your goals. The system becomes a living entity that evolves with you as your needs change, but its core purpose remains the same: to provide the stability you need to excel. Do not fear the constraints of a system, for they are the very things that will set you free from the tyranny of your own impulses. You are the designer and the user of this system, and its success depends entirely on your willingness to trust the structure over your feelings. Ultimately, the mastery of your life is achieved not through a single heroic effort, but through the quiet and consistent application of a well-designed structure. You have seen how willpower fails and how motivation fades, but you have also seen how a system can sustain you through the hardest seasons. This chapter has laid the groundwork for you to begin the process of internal engineering, where you take the raw materials of your time and energy and forge them into a powerful engine of progress. System design is the key to long-term control because it acknowledges your humanity while providing the mechanical assistance needed to transcend your limitations. You are no longer trying to force yourself to be someone you are not. Instead, you are creating a world where being your best self is the most natural thing you can do. As you move forward, remember that structure is not a prison. It is the skeletal system that gives your life its shape and its strength. Every routine you establish and every environment you optimize is a brick in the fortress of your future self. The chaos of the world will continue to swirl around you, but inside your system, there is order and there is purpose. You are the architect of this sanctuary, and by choosing structure, you are choosing to win every single day. The path to greatness is paved with the stones of organized habits and systematic thinking. You have the tools and you have the vision to build a life that is not just productive, but truly extraordinary. Embrace the power of the system, and you will find that control is not something you have to fight for. It is something you have already engineered. Your journey toward total self-mastery is now well underway, and the structure you build today will carry you to the heights of your potential tomorrow and forever. The moment of truth arrives not when you are brimming with inspiration, but when you are drowning in the heavy fog of resistance and your body feels like lead. This is the invisible wall that separates the high achiever from the dreamer who remains stuck in a cycle of perpetual excuses and unfulfilled potential. Emotional resistance is a biological signal that your comfort zone is being challenged, and it is the primary reason most people fail to reach their goals. It is that quiet, insidious voice in the back of your mind whispering that you can wait until tomorrow or that you have already done enough for the week. If you listen to that voice, you are handing over the keys of your life to a temporary mood that has no interest in your long-term success or your personal legacy. Discipline is not the presence of a desire to work, but the absolute refusal to let a lack of desire dictate your physical actions in the world. You must understand that your feelings are often liars designed to keep you safe and stagnant rather than pushed and productive in a competitive environment. Winners operate on a frequency of cold consistency that remains entirely unaffected by the weather or their internal state of being. When you show up on the days you feel like quitting, you are doing more than just completing a task. You are declaring war on your own mediocrity. This is the raw essence of self-control, where you become the master of your own biology instead of its slave. The struggle is the proof that you are actually moving against the current of your previous habits and toward a higher version of yourself. You must learn to ignore the fluctuating signals of your nervous system and focus entirely on the objective requirements of the mission. Every time you push through the resistance, you are sharpening your mind like a blade against a stone. Control is built in the moments of maximum friction. Low-energy days are the ultimate testing ground for your character because they reveal who you truly are when the external rewards and internal excitement are stripped away. Anyone can work hard when the sun is shining and the path is clear, but only the disciplined can march through the storm of apathy without losing their stride. Your identity is forged in these dark hours of hesitation, where the choice to act becomes a profound statement of your personal values. If you only perform when you feel good, you are a fair-weather player in a game that demands total year-round commitment to the process. You must recognize that motivation is a luxury you cannot afford to wait for if you intend to dominate your field or organize your chaotic life. The reality of high performance is that it is often boring and repetitive and deeply uncomfortable, but it is the only way to build something that lasts. When your energy is low, your mind will try to negotiate with you, offering compromises that sound reasonable but are actually traps designed to slow your momentum. You must refuse to bargain with your laziness and instead double down on the promises you made to yourself when you were strong. Pushing anyway means moving your feet when your brain is screaming for you to sit down and rest. It means opening the book or starting the workout or making the call even when your heart is not in it at all. This level of grit is what builds the mental toughness required to survive the inevitable setbacks of any ambitious journey. You are not a victim of your fatigue unless you choose to give it authority over your limbs. The power to act resides in your will, and your will is an independent force that can override any physical sensation if you train it correctly. Discipline is the only reliable fuel for a life of greatness because it never runs dry. To override the seductive pull of laziness, you must employ psychological strategies that trick your brain into bypassing the initial surge of resistance and fear. One of the most effective methods is the concept of minimum action, where you commit to doing the smallest possible version of a task to break the static. If the thought of a 2-hour workout feels impossible, you commit to just 5 minutes of movement, knowing that once you begin, the friction of starting evaporates. Reducing friction is about removing the obstacles that your mind uses as excuses to justify its inaction and its desire for immediate comfort. You must simplify the entry point to your work until it is so small that it would be more embarrassing to skip it than it is to simply do it. This is not about lowering your standards, but about protecting your habit of showing up regardless of the scale of the effort involved. Starting small is the gateway to finishing big because it builds the momentum necessary to carry you through the entire session. Once the body is in motion, the mind often follows, and the heavy cloud of resistance begins to lift as you find your rhythmic flow. You are essentially hacking your own psychology to ensure that the work gets done even when your spirit is lagging behind your schedule. This approach removes the daunting pressure of the entire project and focuses your attention on the single next step in front of you. By narrowing your focus, you eliminate the overwhelming anxiety that often leads to procrastination and total paralysis. You must treat your initial resistance as a gatekeeper that must be bypassed with tactical precision rather than brute force alone. Once you are inside the task, the battle is already won because you have regained the initiative over your day. The smallest action is infinitely more powerful than the grandest intention that never leaves your head. The true strength of a person is measured by the gap between how they feel and what they actually do when no one is watching them work. When you force yourself to execute despite a low mood, you are training your brain to decouple its behavior from its emotional state, which is the ultimate superpower. This process builds a deep sense of identity strength that can only be earned through repeated exposure to voluntary hardship and discomfort. Every time you push through, you are casting a vote for the person you wish to become and silencing the version of you that wants to settle for less. This is how a rock-solid reputation with yourself is built, because you know that your word is law regardless of your internal climate. Over time, this constant repetition of action creates a momentum that becomes harder to stop than it was to start in the beginning. You are teaching your subconscious that your goals are non-negotiable and that your fatigue is a secondary factor that does not hold veto power. This psychological shift transforms you from a reactive participant in your life into a proactive commander of your destiny. You no longer fear the low-energy days because you know you have the tools and the grit to win them anyway. The discomfort you feel in the moment is merely the price of entry for a life of exceptional order and total self-mastery. Do not look for an easy way out because the struggle itself is the very thing that is making you capable of handling greater challenges. You must learn to fall in love with the grind of the difficult days because that is where the real progress is hidden. If it were easy, everyone would be organized and successful, but it is the difficulty that creates the value. You are building a mental fortress that will protect you when life becomes truly heavy. Your willingness to push anyway is the primary metric of your future success. Winners understand that the path to greatness is not a straight line of constant motivation, but a jagged series of battles against the urge to quit. They do not wait for the perfect conditions because they know that perfection is a myth used by the weak to justify their lack of effort. You must adopt a mindset of radical responsibility where your output is your only concern regardless of how much sleep you had or how stressed you feel. This aggressive approach to discipline ensures that you are always moving forward even if it is only by inches during the toughest weeks. Consistency is the only thing that compounds over time, so you cannot afford to have gaps in your performance just because your mood shifted. When you commit to a system of organization, you are signing a contract with your future self that must be honored at all costs. The world does not care about your feelings, it only cares about the value you provide and the results you produce through your work. By mastering the art of pushing through, you are positioning yourself ahead of the vast majority of people who are paralyzed by their own emotions. This is a competitive advantage that cannot be bought or faked because it must be earned in the trenches of daily life. You are creating a version of yourself that is immune to the fluctuations of the external world because your internal engine is self-sustaining. Stop looking for external validation or a sign to begin and just start moving your body toward the objective. The heat of your action will eventually burn away the coldness of your resistance, and you will find the strength you thought was missing. You are far more capable than your current mood is leading you to believe, and it is time to prove it. Take the first step now and do not stop until the job is done. This is the only way to achieve the level of control you desire. When you finish a task on a day you didn't feel like starting, you experience a level of satisfaction that is far superior to any easy victory. This internal reward reinforces the habit of discipline and makes the next battle slightly easier to win because you have a record of success. You are proving to yourself that you are the one in charge, and that your impulses do not have the final say in your life. This realization is incredibly empowering, and it serves as the foundation for a life of total organization and high-level achievement. You must embrace the fact that you will often have to do things you hate to get to the things you love. The bridge between your current reality and your ultimate vision is built with the bricks of those difficult days. Do not resent the struggle, but welcome it as a chance to demonstrate your commitment to your own growth. You are becoming a person of substance who can be relied upon when things get difficult for everyone else. This reliability starts with how you treat your own schedule and your own promises when no one is around to hold you accountable. You must be your own toughest critic and your own most relentless coach if you want to reach the top of your potential. Control is not a gift that is handed to you, it is a skill that is forged through the fire of daily resistance. Every morning you have a choice to either be a victim of your biology or a master of your intent. Choose to push anyway and watch as your life begins to align with the vision you have created for yourself. The only thing standing in your way is your own hesitation, and you have the power to crush it right now. Move with purpose and let the world see that you are a force that cannot be slowed down by something as trivial as a bad mood. This is your life, and it is time to take full command of every single second. The journey toward total self-organization is a marathon that is won in the moments when you want to stop but choose to keep going. You have learned that willpower is a tool, but consistency is the master, and that your feelings are secondary to your mission. By implementing strategies like starting small and reducing friction, you have removed the excuses that used to hold you back from your work. You are now armed with the mental toughness to face the low-energy days with a sense of purpose rather than a sense of dread. Remember that every push through discomfort is a direct investment in your identity, strength, and your future capability. You are no longer the person who waits for inspiration. You are the person who creates it through the act of showing up. This chapter has given you the raw perspective needed to win when the odds are against your internal state. Take this momentum and apply it to every area of your life, from your physical health to your professional output and your personal order. The system you have built is only as strong as your willingness to defend it on the days when you are at your weakest. Stand firm in your commitment and refuse to let laziness steal another moment of your precious time. You are the architect of your destiny and the commander of your own mind. The path is clear and the objective is set, so there is nothing left to do but execute with relentless precision. You have what it takes to control yourself, and by doing so you will eventually control everything that matters in your world. The time for talk is over, and the time for action is here. Step into the arena and show yourself what you are truly made of. Push anyway and win the day, because your future self is counting on you to be strong right now. This is the final step in your transformation into a person of absolute discipline and order. Time is the only resource in your possession that is truly finite and non-renewable, yet it is treated by the masses as if it were an infinite spring of water. Every second that ticks away is a unit of your life spent, and if you are not the one directing its flow, someone else will gladly steal it from you. Most people do not fail because they lack talent or ambition, but because they have lost the war for their own attention in a world designed to keep them distracted. We live in an era of engineered addiction where every notification and every scroll is a calculated attempt to hijack your focus for profit. When you allow these external forces to dictate your time, you are effectively giving up control of your destiny and handing your potential over to an algorithm. Attention is the currency of the modern world, and your ability to protect it is the primary factor that determines whether you build a legacy or simply fade into the background. You must realize that a day lost to distraction is not just a missed opportunity, but a permanent reduction in what you can achieve during your time on this earth. The first step to taking back your day is acknowledging that your time is under constant siege by 1,000 invisible enemies. You cannot organize your life if you cannot organize your hours, and you cannot organize your hours if your mind is a revolving door for every digital whim that comes your way. Taking back control requires a serious and urgent reevaluation of how you value your existence. You must move from a state of passive consumption to a state of active production by placing a high price on every minute of your focus. If you do not value your time, nobody else will, and the world will continue to drain you until you have nothing left to give yourself. The modern landscape is a minefield of distractions that are specifically calibrated to exploit the vulnerabilities of the human brain and its craving for dopamine. Social media platforms and constant smartphone notifications have created a culture of perpetual interruption that makes deep thought almost impossible for the average person. We have become accustomed to a state of constant mental fragmentation where we check our devices hundreds of times a day without even realizing it is happening. This habit destroys your ability to concentrate on a single task and leaves you in a state of cognitive shallowing where your work lacks depth and meaning. Multitasking is another dangerous myth that suggests you can handle several complex inputs at once, when in reality, you are simply switching between them. Every time you switch your focus, there is a hidden cost known as attention residue, where a part of your mind stays stuck on the previous task. This fragmentation effectively lowers your functional intelligence and makes every job take twice as long as it should while producing inferior results. You are burning through your mental energy by forcing your brain to recalibrate over and over again throughout the day. To take back your day, you must first identify the leaks in your attention and plug them with ruthless intention and singular focus. This means silencing the noise of the digital world and creating a sanctuary for your mind to operate at its highest capacity. Eliminating the constant buzz of notifications is not just a productivity hack, but a vital act of self-defense for your sanity. When you clear away the clutter of modern distractions, you regain the clarity necessary to see your true priorities. Without focus, you are just a passenger in a vehicle driven by the whims of other people and their commercial interests. Deep focus is the ability to concentrate without distraction on a cognitively demanding task, and it is becoming the rarest and most valuable skill in our economy. While the rest of the world is busy chasing the next headline or reacting to every ping, you must cultivate the power of sustained immersion. When you enter a state of deep focus, you are able to process information faster and produce work that is significantly higher in quality. This state of flow is where true breakthroughs happen and where the most organized lives are actually built and sustained over time. To achieve this, you must implement the strategy of time blocking, which involves dedicating specific chunks of your day to specific activities. Instead of working from a chaotic and never-ending to-do list, you assign a time and a place for every priority on your schedule. This creates a psychological contract with yourself that reduces the need for constant decision-making during the day. When a time block is active, nothing else exists except the work in front of you and the goal you have set for that period. This structured approach eliminates the anxiety of wondering what you should be doing next because the plan has already been decided. It allows you to move from one task to another with a clear transition and a sense of mounting accomplishment. By guarding these blocks of time, you create a fortress around your most important goals and prevent the trivial from encroaching on the essential. This is how you move from being busy to being productive and from being distracted to being powerful. Deep focus is not a gift that some people have. It is a muscle that you must train through daily practice and intentional scheduling. Every hour of deep work you put in is a massive deposit into the bank of your long-term success. Intentional scheduling is the act of designing your day before it begins so that you are the one setting the tempo and the priorities of your life. Most people wake up and immediately check their email or social media, which puts them in a reactive mode for the remainder of their waking hours. They are responding to the demands of others rather than pursuing their own objectives, and this leads to a sense of being overwhelmed and out of control. When you schedule your day with intention, you decide exactly how your mental energy will be distributed across your various responsibilities. You place your most difficult and high-leverage tasks in the windows where your energy is naturally at its peak. This proactive stance allows you to navigate the day with a sense of calm and authority because you have already mapped out the terrain. Controlling your time is the most direct way to control the direction of your life because your life is nothing more than a collection of days. If you win the day through intentionality, you will eventually win the week and the month and the decade. It is the cumulative effect of these small victories of attention that creates a life of extraordinary order and significant achievement. You must learn to say no to the countless requests for your time that do not align with your core mission. Every time you say yes to a distraction, you are saying no to your goals and your future self. Scheduling provides the boundaries that keep you on the path and prevents you from drifting into the aimless habits of the crowd. It turns your vague aspirations into concrete actions that are anchored in the reality of your calendar. When you know exactly what you need to do and when you need to do it, the resistance to starting begins to vanish. This is the ultimate freedom that comes from a well-ordered life and a disciplined approach to the clock. Eliminating distractions does more than just save you time. It actually increases your total mental power and your ability to execute at a high level. When your mind is not being pulled in a dozen different directions, you can apply the full force of your intellect to the problem at hand. This concentrated energy is what allows you to solve complex problems and master new skills with a speed that others find impossible. Your execution ability is directly tied to the clarity of your mind and the absence of cognitive noise in your environment. By removing the friction of distraction, you make the act of working feel smoother and more natural rather than an uphill battle of the will. You will find that tasks which used to take you hours now take only half the time because your focus is sharp and unyielding. This reclaimed mental power can then be directed toward organizing the other areas of your life that have been neglected due to a lack of energy. Control over your time creates a positive feedback loop where your successes fuel your confidence and lead to even greater levels of discipline. You become a person of action who follows through on their plans because there is nothing standing in the way of your progress. This level of execution is what defines the most successful and organized individuals in history. They were not necessarily smarter than anyone else, but they were much better at guarding their focus and directing their energy. You have the same potential for excellence if you are willing to make the hard choices required to simplify your life. True power is not found in doing more things, but in doing the right things with total and absolute intensity. When you master your attention, you master your mind, and when you master your mind, you master the world around you. This is the secret of the elite who understand that focus is the ultimate leverage. The relationship between time control and life direction is absolute because where you spend your attention is where you will end up. If your attention is scattered and reactive, you will find yourself in a life that feels accidental and unfulfilled regardless of your intentions. If your attention is focused and deliberate, you will move toward your goals with the precision of a guided missile. Taking back your day is the primary act of self-respect that allows you to claim authority over your future. It requires a serious commitment to protecting your boundaries and a willingness to be seen as different by those who are content to drift. You must be willing to turn off the noise and step away from the crowd to find the silence necessary for growth. This is not about being antisocial or rigid, but about being a steward of the most precious gift you have been given. Every hour you reclaim from distraction is an hour you can use to build a better version of yourself and a more organized world. You will find that as you take control of your time, your stress levels drop and your sense of purpose increases dramatically. You are no longer rushing through life, trying to catch up with a schedule that you didn't create. Instead, you are the one who is leading the way and deciding the pace of your journey toward excellence. The clarity that comes from time control is the ultimate competitive advantage in a world that is increasingly chaotic and confused. You will see opportunities that others miss, and you will have the energy to pursue them while they are still recovering from their latest distraction. This is the path of the organized leader who knows that time is the foundation of all control. Your day is your life in miniature, so treat it with the seriousness it deserves, and do not let a single minute be wasted on the trivial. Taking control of your time is an empowering journey that transforms your relationship with yourself and the world at large. It is a practical application of the discipline you have been building in the previous chapters, and it is the key to making everything else work. By mastering your focus and eliminating distractions, you are removing the primary obstacles to your success and your peace of mind. This chapter has shown you the reality of modern distraction and given you the tools to fight back with deep focus and intentional scheduling. Now it is up to you to apply these strategies with a sense of urgency and a commitment to excellence. Do not wait for a more convenient time to start, because that time will never come in a world that is always demanding more of you. Start today by silencing your notifications and blocking out your first hour of deep work to reclaim your power. Watch as your mental clarity returns and your ability to execute reaches new heights of effectiveness. You have the ability to take back your day and to steer your life in the direction you have always wanted it to go. The choice is yours, and it is a choice you must make every single morning when you wake up. Will you be a victim of distraction or a master of your time and your destiny? Choose to be the architect of your hours, and you will find that you are capable of achieving far more than you ever imagined. This is the essence of a life organized for impact, and it begins with the next second of your focused attention. Control your time, and you will truly control everything that matters. You are now equipped with the knowledge to dominate your schedule and move toward your highest goals with unwavering resolve. Go forth and take back your day. The ultimate goal of self-mastery is not to live in a state of perpetual struggle, but to reach a point where excellence is simply your default mode of existence. True transformation occurs when the heavy lifting of discipline is transferred from your conscious will to the silent machinery of your subconscious mind. This is the process of habit formation where a repeated action becomes so deeply ingrained that it no longer requires a decision to execute. When you lock in a habit, you are effectively automating your success and ensuring that your progress continues even when your mental energy is at its lowest point. Habits are the invisible architecture of a well-ordered life, providing a foundation of stability that allows you to weather any storm. By shifting your focus from individual acts of willpower to the creation of permanent behavioral loops, you are building a system that works for you 24 hours a day. Decision fatigue is the enemy of consistency, but habits are the cure because they remove the need to choose between what is easy and what is right. You no longer have to debate with yourself about whether to exercise or how to organize your workspace because the habit has already made the choice for you. This transition from forced effort to automatic execution is the hallmark of the truly controlled individual. You are moving beyond the need for constant motivation and entering a realm of professional consistency where your actions are guided by a reliable internal compass. The power of a habit lies in its ability to persist without supervision, making it the most potent tool in your arsenal for long-term change. Once a behavior is locked in, it becomes a part of your nature rather than a task on your list. This is the essence of true control. To build a habit that lasts, you must understand the mechanical relationship between your environment and your brain through the use of specific triggers and cues. Every habit begins with a signal that tells your mind to initiate a particular behavior, and by controlling these signals, you can steer your life in any direction you choose. Environmental triggers are the silent prompts that dictate your daily flow, such as the sight of your running shoes or the specific layout of your morning office space. If you want to make discipline automatic, you must design your physical world to be a series of nudges toward your highest objectives. By making the cues for good habits obvious and the cues for bad habits invisible, you are leveraging the power of your surroundings to support your goals. Repetition is the forge in which these habits are shaped, and every single iteration strengthens the neural pathways associated with that specific action. You do not need to be perfect every day, but you must be consistent enough to allow the biological process of habituation to take root in your nervous system. Each time you respond to a trigger with the desired behavior, you are reinforcing the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. This is not about a sudden burst of lightning, but about the steady drip of water that eventually carves through solid rock. You are training your brain to recognize that a certain context always leads to a certain result, which creates a sense of psychological safety and predictability. When your environment is aligned with your intentions, the friction of life begins to meld away, and your productivity reaches a state of effortless momentum. You are no longer fighting against the world, but moving in harmony with a structure you have meticulously created. The most profound shift in habit formation occurs when you stop focusing on what you want to achieve and start focusing on who you wish to become through your actions. This is identity-based behavior where your habits are not just things you do, but reflections of the person you believe yourself to be in the world. When you tell yourself that you are a disciplined person who values order, your habits become a natural expression of that internal truth rather than a chore. Every time you complete a scheduled task or organize a part of your life, you are providing yourself with physical evidence of your new identity. This evidence is more powerful than any affirmation because it is grounded in reality and proven through the simple act of showing up. Consistency turns effort into identity by slowly erasing the old self-image of chaos and replacing it with a new image of absolute control. You are not just someone who is trying to be organized, you are someone who is organized by nature and by choice. This internal shift makes it much harder to break a habit, because doing so would feel like a betrayal of your own character and your personal standards. When your habits are rooted in your identity, they require far less energy to maintain because they are powered by the deep desire for internal consistency. You begin to act in accordance with your highest values because it is simply who you are, and any other behavior feels foreign and uncomfortable. This is the peak of self-mastery, where the struggle for discipline ends and the expression of excellence begins. By changing your story, you change your life, and your habits are the ink with which that story is written every single day. You are the author of your own identity, and your daily routines are the chapters that prove your commitment. The true power of small habits lies in their ability to compound over time into massive life changes that would be impossible to achieve through a single effort. We often underestimate the value of making a 1% improvement each day, but the mathematical reality of compounding ensures that these gains accumulate exponentially. A small habit like reading 10 pages a night or clearing your desk every evening may seem insignificant in the moment, but over a year it creates a monumental shift. You are building a massive reservoir of progress through the steady accumulation of these tiny victories that most people overlook or ignore entirely. Control is not found in the grand gestures, but in the mundane details that you manage with precision and care. These micro-habits act as the building blocks of a high-performance life, providing the incremental progress that fuels long-term motivation and belief. As you stack these small wins, you create a sense of momentum that becomes an unstoppable force in your favor. The compound effect works in both directions, so you must be vigilant about the small negative habits that can quietly erode your progress and your peace of mind. By focusing on the small things, you are taking care of the big things, because the whole is always equal to the sum of its parts. You do not need to revolutionize your life in 24 hours. You only need to commit to the small actions that lead to a better version of tomorrow. This slow and steady approach is the most reliable way to create a permanent transformation that survives the test of time. You are building a legacy of excellence one small choice at a time, and the results will eventually speak for themselves. The compound interest of your habits is the secret weapon that will carry you to the heights of your potential. Habits serve as the ultimate defense against decision fatigue by automating the recurring aspects of your life and preserving your mental energy for what matters. Every time you have to decide when to wake up or what to eat or when to start working, you are draining the finite battery of your willpower. By turning these choices into automatic routines, you are creating a surplus of cognitive resources that can be directed toward creative problem solving and strategic growth. A life built on habits is a life of stability where the foundational elements of your existence are handled with mechanical efficiency and total reliability. This stability provides the emotional and mental platform needed to take risks and pursue ambitious goals without feeling overwhelmed or scattered. You are essentially outsourcing the maintenance of your life to your subconscious mind so that your conscious mind is free to lead and to innovate. This is how the most successful people in history managed to achieve so much. They didn't have more energy, they just wasted less of it on the trivial. When your day is anchored by solid habits, you move through the world with a sense of calm authority because you know exactly what is expected of yourself. You are no longer at the mercy of your whims or the demands of others because your habits have created a protective shield around your time. This level of organization is not a burden, but a profound liberation that allows you to live with true intentionality and focus. By reducing the number of daily decisions you have to make, you are increasing the quality of the decisions that remain. Your habits are the loyal servants that allow you to be the undisputed master of your own domain. This is the practical reality of self-control, where structure creates the freedom to excel. As you reach the end of this journey, you must understand that control is not a single moment of triumph, but a lifestyle built through the continuous cycle of repetition and awareness. It is a commitment to the process of self-refinement that never truly ends because there is always a higher level of order and discipline to reach. You have the tools to design your systems and the grit to push through the hard days and the wisdom to take back your time from the noise. Now you must lock it all in by turning these principles into the permanent habits that define your existence from this day forward. True mastery is the result of thousands of small decisions made correctly when no one was watching and when it would have been easier to quit. You are the architect of your own character, and the habits you choose to cultivate are the materials with which you build your future. Do not let the lessons you have learned fade into the background, but keep them at the forefront of your mind as you navigate the challenges ahead. Control is a practice, and like any practice, it requires constant attention and a willingness to begin again whenever you falter. You have proven to yourself that you are capable of change and that you have the power to organize your life in a way that reflects your true potential. The path to greatness is not a mystery. It is a series of well-worn steps that you must take every single day with purpose and with heart. Your habits are the footprints you leave behind and the map you follow toward the horizon of your dreams. You are now a person of absolute discipline, and your life is a testament to the power of structured self-control. This is the moment where your new life begins, and where the old version of you is left behind in the dust of your progress. The strength of your life is determined by the quality of the habits you choose to protect and the awareness with which you guard your daily routines. You have discovered that you can control everything that matters by first controlling yourself and the small actions that make up your days. This realization is the ultimate power because it places the keys to your destiny firmly in your own hands. Control is not a destination, but a way of walking through the world with your eyes open and your intentions clear. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are in alignment with your values and that your actions are consistent with your goals. As you move forward, let your habits be the anchor that keeps you steady and the engine that drives you toward the life you were meant to live. The work is never finished, but the rewards are infinite for those who are willing to remain disciplined and focused on the long-term vision. You are no longer a victim of circumstance or a slave to your impulses, but a commander of your own fate and a master of your own mind. The world is waiting for the version of you that is organized and powerful and ready to make an impact. Take these principles and weave them into the very fabric of your being until they are inseparable from your identity. Remember that you are always just one habit away from a breakthrough and one decision away from a higher level of control. This is your life, and it is time to live it with the absolute intensity and order that you have earned through your dedication. Go forth with the knowledge that you are the master of your soul and the architect of your future. The journey continues, and the power is yours to keep forever through the simple and profound act of locking it in every single day. This is your time, and this is your legacy.